Hello scrappers, welcome back to my channel. Mike here. Once again we are attempting to get the gold foils from 150 pounds of ram sticks from this material that my friend Ken up in BC, Canada sent me. Been having a lot of trouble with this if you've been following this series. Parts 1, parts 2, pretty much very little has gone right trying to get the gold foils out of this material. You wouldn't think it'd be so difficult because you can see the gold foils in there. But they are mixed in with a lot of nasty debris that causes me a lot of problems. Nothing I have tried has worked all that well. I did find a way to do it in episode 2. The first part of episode 2 was kind of like a blooper reel, where I showed excerpts of all the tests I'd been doing and how they'd all gone wrong. But towards the end, I did find a way forward to process this stuff. But thinking about it afterwards, it's like, this is crazy convoluted. Okay, there's way too many steps. There's way too many expensive chemicals required. It takes way too long. Nah, that's not gonna work. There's not enough gold in here to make that worthwhile. To go through all those different steps, use all those expensive chemicals. It's not gonna work. Okay, Ken asked me to find economical ways to do this, using materials that he can get a hold of in Canada easy. He can't get a hold of some of the chemicals here in the US that I can get a hold of really easy. Up in Canada, they're either illegal or they're very expensive, very hard to ship, whatever. So I kind of went off on a high complexity, chemical intensive tangent there in episode 2. And that's just not practical. So I'm calling this episode Back to Basics. We're going to try some more basic stuff. We're going to try something that one of you viewers out there actually suggested. And we're going to try something I thought of but have been kind of reluctant to try. But we're going to try it anyway, because it's really low tech and simple, and we'll see if it works. This is again the gold foils from the fingers on 150 pounds of ram sticks that Ken stripped all that stuff off of. But it's all mixed up. There's conformal coating in here, there's silkscreen material, there's MLCCs, there's chip resistors, and there's who knows what the heck is in here. Bits of paper labels, there's everything under the sun in here, along with all these gold foils. And this stuff is very, very fine. It's as fine as gold leaf. It's just been a nightmare to work with. Pouring it out is difficult because the slightest breath of air, and it is very slightly breezy this morning, so I got a feeling some of this stuff's going to go around the workbench. It's difficult just because everything in here is so light and powdery. And just nothing has gone right. Something in this stuff causes it to foam horribly when you try to dissolve the gold in aqua regia. It interacts with the aqua regia and just produces massive amounts of foam. If I put a little bit of this in this great big beaker here and put a little bit of aqua regia on it, it's going to foam all the way up out of this beaker, and it's going to keep doing that and keep doing that and keep doing that. It's been a nightmare. So like I said, at the end of episode 2, I found a way to get around the foaming issue. Okay. But it was very chemically intensive. There were a lot of steps. There was a lye boil, then there was a nitric acid boil, then there was treatment with aqua regia, then you drop the gold, and you get a dirty, nasty gold drop. You got to redissolve the gold, redrop it. It's like all these steps to get a little bit of gold, and it's just not practical. So we're going to try some back to basics stuff and see what we can do. So I'm going to measure out 200-gram portions of this, and we're going to run 2 different experiments in parallel in this video, and we'll see how they work out and see which works best. And then hopefully one or the other of them, or maybe even both, will work out pretty well. That would be good, because that would give me 3 ways forward, as well as the chemically intensive way that we had at the end of episode 2, and hopefully 2 less chemically intensive ways forward. We'll see. I'm not going to get my hopes up too high, because most of the small scale tests I've run have been miserable failures, so these could be miserable failures too. I can see some ways this could go sideways, but we'll try it. So let me measure out these 2 portions, and then I'll talk a little bit about what I'm going to do with this stuff. Alright. See if I can get this in here without spreading it all over the workbench, because it is slightly windy this morning. And I don't know if the dust is showing up on the camera, but yeah, yeah, we're getting a little bit of gold foils on the bench here. Okay, there's 100 grams. There's the first sample measured out, and I'm going to transfer it to this. Oh, and the wind just blew it all over the place. So I'm going to have to, in fact, it's all over on my arm. So I'm going to have to sweep these gold foils up off the bench and get them in there. So let me do that. Let me, let me clean up my mess here a little bit. My goodness. Yeah, this stuff, these foils are so fine. They just go everywhere. Alright, that's pretty good. I'm probably just going to spread more out when I measure out the next small sample. So let's try this again. People say I should wet this stuff, which, you know, seems like a good idea, but you know, I'm trying to get an accurate weight on just the material here, and if it's wet, that's hard to do because you're probably going to have more water weight than anything else. Okay, 100 grams. Okay, and I got a few more foils. I'm going to put this inside the fume hood so the wind doesn't blow anything out of it. Just because I can hear the wind rising in the trees, and I don't need a big gust to come through and blow it out of that casserole dish all over the bench and all over the floor. So, what I'll do here is just get this stuff in here. I mean, these few foils on the bench, I'm sure, don't amount to anything. Certainly not enough material for me to weigh with any of my balances, but still, you know, try and get it all corralled. Okay, so I said we're going to do 2 different tests with this stuff, and we're going back to basics. The stuff in the casserole dish, I'm sorry, I don't remember who made the comment, but I thought it was pretty brilliant. I'll have to go back through the comments after episode 1 came out. I think it was on episode 1. Somebody made a comment, you should ash the stuff in your kiln. And I thought, yeah, okay. Well, I haven't been able to use my kilns because we had a hurricane come through and we have been flooded. Yeah, I've been working out here in ankle-deep water a lot of the times, and you guys just haven't seen it. I have my boots on out here. We have been flooded, and I haven't been wanting to run the kilns, 240-volt kilns, while standing in ankle-deep water. So, but the water has receded. I'm going to have to slog through some mud to get back to where the kilns are, but things are starting to dry out. I need to get the kilns up and running again anyway because I've got an optical project coming out soon. So, yeah, so we're going to take the stuff in the casserole dish. I'm going to put it in one of my kilns, and we're going to ash it in the kiln and see how that goes. There won't be any air currents in there. So that should work pretty good. I couldn't figure out, people keep telling me incinerate this stuff, and I think I would love to incinerate it. But if I set fire to this stuff, the convection currents are going to blow it all over the place. So, you know, that wasn't going to work. So we're going to try that. We're going to ash that in the one sample in the kiln. This stuff, we're going back to serious basics on this stuff. We're going to try dissolving this in muriatic acid and bleach and see how that goes. Something I've thought about doing but been a little bit reluctant to, because up till now I've been trying to capture the silver too. Because it seems like there's a significant amount of silver in here from the MLCCs and chip resistors. But really the silver's just been in my way the whole time. So I'm thinking with all the chlorine that's going to be generated with the the hydrochloric acid and bleach method, that we're probably not going to be able to recover any silver from this stuff, and we're probably going to have silver chloride issues, but we're going to try it anyway and see. Maybe we'll at least get the gold without having to go through 15 different steps. So we're going to try that. So let me get this in the fume hood and we'll get started on it, and then later we'll go back and we'll work in the kiln with the other stuff. Okay, so I've got our 100-gram sample here in the fume hood. Let me get the fume hood started before I do anything, because we are going to make some fumes. We're going to make some nasty fumes. The fume hood, we're sharing the fume hood with another little project I'm working on over here. Another little project that Ken sent me. He sent me some interesting projects, let me tell you. This is something I'm working on. The material he sent me from Mount Baker Mining and Metals. So I've got a whole series of videos going on that too. I'll put a link in the upper right if you want to check out what I'm doing with the stuff he sent me from Jason over at MBMM. I'm trying to recover precious metals from some ground up motherboards. So you can check that out if you're so inclined. But we will focus on what's going on here. I've got some muriatic acid here. I'm going to put it over our small scale sample here, 100-gram sample. And everything is stone cold. I am wearing a jacket, which you don't normally see on me out here. It's about 54 degrees Fahrenheit out here in Florida. And we've had our first significant cold front come through. And everything is stone cold. But I'll tell you what, I put the muriatic acid on this stuff. It turns a deep, dark, nasty green-brown color, and we get bubbling and fizzing. So there's some very reactive stuff in this, and it really gets in the way of trying to recover the gold from it. Let me lid this up. There, get that lidded up. So what I've got here is some, basically just laundry bleach, you know, sodium hypochlorite, laundry bleach. Nothing special. This is the cheap stuff. Don't get the anti-splash stuff that they've thickened with something. I mean, it'll kind of work for this, but you really don't want all those extra things in the way, the thickeners and the whatnot that they put in there. You just want regular, plain, liquid laundry bleach, cheapest you can find, and it's going to work good for this. So what's going to happen is I'm going to start dribbling. Notice I have not put any heat to this. I may put a little heat to it just because it's so chilly today. We'll see what kind of reaction we get when I put some of this in. But this is something where you don't really want to have a lot of heat. So I'm going to start putting some of this in, and look at the foaming and the bubbling. Can you see that? Maybe I need to zoom in a little, or I put my next addition in. So what's happening here, you know, it's the old thing they tell you, don't ever mix bleach and acid. Yeah, this is the reason you don't want to mix bleach and acid, okay? Because those bubbles that are coming out are chlorine gas. And that'll kill you in an enclosed space. Like you're cleaning your bathroom and you got a tough stain and you're like, well, let me just mix up a little bleach and acid here and see if it takes that stain off, and pretty soon you're breathing chlorine gas, you pass out and die. So, but this is a reaction that takes place even at fairly low temperatures like today. And it's actually kind of advantageous not to have this too hot, because what you'll do is you'll drive off the chlorine gas out of the liquid if you heat it up too much, because gases are much more soluble in cold liquids than in hot liquids. And what we're doing here is the chlorine that I'm producing here, hopefully will act as an oxidizing agent to put the gold into solution. It will do the job that we would normally use nitric acid for if we're making aqua regia, or it'll do the job that concentrated hydrogen peroxide would do, you know. So I'm hoping, and we'll see how it works out. that we can put the gold into solution here, basically in one quick easy step, and then hopefully we can get it back out of solution without too much trouble. So we'll have to see how it goes. So the way this is going to work is I'm just going to periodically add more bleach to this over time. I'm going to let it sit and let the foils dissolve slowly. It's going to be a fairly slow process. It's not instant. There's not a lot of excitement going on in there. Like sometimes with Aqua Regia, you got the brown orange fumes and you got lots of bubbling and fizzing. It's a pretty slow, sedate process when it works. And I'm just going to come back and I'm going to add more bleach to it from time to time. I'll stir it up and see if I still see foils in there. I'll put a little more bleach in. And we're just going to let that sit there and work. And it may take a while. It may take an hour. It may take a couple hours to get all those foils into solution. It may not work at all. This is an experiment. But hopefully it will work. We'll get those foils into solution. Then we'll try and figure out how to get the gold back out of solution. So, okay. So we're just going to let this work. And I'm going to slog my way back around the other side of the building where the kilns are and get them ready to go. And we'll get this other sample in there and start ashing it in the kiln. Okay, here we are. Here we are out back where I've got my kilns. Turned the circuit breakers back on. Nothing exploded yet, so I guess we're drying out some back here. Let me reach in front of the camera, sorry. Got my small scale sample here. I put aluminum foil over the top of the casserole dish just so that the wind would not blow this stuff away. It's like I'm going to a potluck. I've got my little contribution to the potluck here. I'm going to put this in my smaller kiln. And let me get the foil off of it and get the lid closed. Okay, so a little bit of a question about what temperature I want to cook this stuff at. I need to program my controller down here. My home-built controller. I have a web page for this controller because I do a lot of glass work in my kilns. I got this kiln here, I got this bigger kiln over here, which I'm going to be cooking a big mirror in pretty soon. And when you're working with glass, you need precise temperature control. So I built my own temperature controller. But what do I want to cook this stuff at? That's a good question. The casserole dish is probably good to 500 or 600 degrees. And that might ash away all of that organic material in there from the conformal coating, silkscreen material, whatever, papered labels. That's the stuff that's giving me trouble, I'm sure. It's the organics in there. So hopefully we can ash away all those organics. So I'm thinking 500 to 600 degrees for a few hours. I mean, the kilns got really wet, so I'm going to ramp up the temperature on this slowly anyway, just to bake the moisture out of them, so we don't have any steam explosions. So I'll shoot right for the middle, 550 degrees. I can't decide between 500 and 600, so I'll shoot for 550. I'll give it a slow ramp up, maybe over a couple hours. And I'll crack the lid on the kiln a little bit to let the fumes out as that stuff burns off in there. Don't want to wind up with a lot of volatilized organics in there because we can actually have an explosion. You know, and mix with the air in there and it can actually explode. I've actually blown the lid off kilns before. You got to be careful about that. So, okay. So let me program this up. That'll take me a few minutes. You don't have to watch, and then we'll get it started. But it's all programmed up, so it's going to ramp up to 550 degrees and hold there. It's going to ramp up over a period of 2 hours. And I'm going to start the program right now. So over the next 2 hours, this kiln's going to ramp up to 550 degrees, and it's just going to hold there. I got the door cracked open just a little bit to provide some ventilation so that the fumes don't build up in there to an explosive level as we start cooking off the... Oh, I heard the kiln just come on. So that's good. Okay, it was on for a few seconds. Yep, okay. So it's working. The controller's working. Starting to bring the temperature up. Okay. So I'm going to have that slow ramp up over 2 hours just so we don't have any steam explosions, because these kilns got soaked when the hurricane came through, and it's been raining a lot ever since then. So get this good and dried out. And we'll get that stuff ashed in there, and we'll see what that does for us. Maybe it'll be a lot easier to deal with once all those organics are gone out of it. That's what I'm hoping anyway. Incineration is never a bad idea when you're dealing with this kind of stuff, but it's just so darn difficult to do with this stuff. So we'll see what happens. So let's go back to the fume hood and see what's going on in there with the other sample I'm working on. Okay, here we are back at this other sample. Can you see how green that is inside that beaker? That is chlorine gas that has filled that beaker up. We have a lot of chlorine gas in there, which is what we need to do the job we need done. Let me swirl this around a little bit and see if I still see foils floating in there. Oh yeah, the gold's not all in solution yet. This is going to take a while. I mean, this is not an energetic, fast process. I've done this before in earlier videos. Back when I first started out processing e-wastes. This is one way to get the gold in solution. Not always the best, and I'm not 100% certain how well this is going to work for us. Like I said, I was kind of reluctant to try this, but hey, a lot of other stuff I've tried hasn't worked out, so we'll try this. And the fact that it's so chilly today is probably going to make this even slower. Like I said, though, I'm reluctant to heat it up because it'll drive the chlorine off, and we need the chlorine to get the job done. So it's going to take a while, but hey, we've got hours to wait on the kiln out back, so if this takes hours, well, it takes hours. So this will just be what I'm working on today. Well, it's been almost 2 hours, and well, I can still see gold foils in there when I stir this stuff. I'm gonna turn the heat on just a little bit. I just want to take the chill off of it. I think that the cold weather out here is slowing things down even more than would be normal for this normally pretty slow process. So I'm going to just sort of take the chill off of it and see if that helps. Okay? So it's been almost 2 hours, so let's go check in the kiln because that should be almost up to temperature. So I don't know if that's showing up, but we just reached 550 degrees, 549. So yeah, the kiln is just now up to temperature. Let's take a careful look inside. I'll open the door slowly so as not to create any big air currents. Well, it's all turned black in there, but I still see the gold foils. They're quite shiny. I don't know if that's showing up for you. Dark in there. Stinks a little bit, so we're cooking something out of there. But it's just now up to temperature. I still see some blue and green in there, so we haven't quite burned off everything. So I'm going to leave it in there, maybe even for a few hours, and see what it looks like. If I'm still seeing what looks like organic matter in there, I may bump the temperature up some more and let it cook a little while longer. We'll see, but definitely something's happening, so we're just going to let it cook. Alright, I've bumped the temperature on the kiln up to 600 degrees because there really didn't seem to be much going on in here. It hadn't really changed much since the last time I looked a while back. I mean, it's a little blacker, but it really doesn't look all that well ashed. So I've bumped it up, and I might bump it up a little further. Ooh, it's hot. Yeah, getting hot in there. Maybe up to even 650. And I may get like a steel putty knife and stir the stuff around just to make sure that everything is exposed to the oxygen in there. Okay, I actually did increase it to 650, but I'm increasing it to 700. The casserole torture test is going to continue because I'm just not happy with what's going on in the kiln. It's not ashing. It turned black, but I'd like to see it turn gray. You know, it's, I don't know how to describe it. I was stirring it with the putty knife down here, and it's, I don't know, it's almost like it's half melted rather than, you know, dry and ashy. So we're going up to 700. We may go higher than that. I want to get this stuff ashed. You know, I don't want to have to deal with whatever's in that organic material. So we'll see how high we can go, or how high it has to go to get it ashy. Okay, we've been at 700 for quite a while, and I'll tell you what, there's really nothing happening in the kiln. It looks just like it did at 550. It still looks kind of mushy, half melted. It doesn't look like it's ashed. Wow, this stuff is resistant. Any other organic material just about in there would be ashed by now. I mean, think of just how badly you can burn dinner at temperatures a lot lower than this. You know, you can turn a steak into charcoal at temperatures a lot lower than this, but whatever that stuff in there is, it's just, I don't know. We're going for broke. I'm raising the temperature to 850, and I'm going to leave it there for a while. I mean, this has been going on for, we're in the middle of the afternoon now. Okay, started this in the morning, and this stuff doesn't look ashed yet. So, yeah, we're going for broke. I'm going to raise this to 850. If I lose the cordingware dish, that's fine. Whatever. I just want to try and get this stuff ashed, or at least see what 850 will do to it, okay? So I'll adjust the controller up to 850. We'll let it come up to temperature and see what it looks like. And we have our issues out here too. Again, it's the middle of the afternoon. Started this early this morning, and I'll tell you what, there's still a lot of undissolved foils in this. I have put a whole lot of bleach in here. Every time I walk by, I hit it with some more bleach. I'm sure some of the foils are probably dissolved, but there still looks like there's a whole lot of undissolved foils in there. Not sure why this is taking so long. It is not a fast process, but this is ridiculously slow. So the only thing I can think of is some of that other debris in there is reacting with the chlorine we're producing and not making it available to dissolve the foils. So we're probably, that chlorine I'm producing is attacking the MLCCs, it's probably attacking the chip resistors, it's probably attacking all that silk screen material, and that's probably why it's not being available to put the gold foils into solution, because, you know, it usually doesn't take this long and this much bleach to get, you know, a little bit of gold foil into solution with muriatic acid and bleach. I was afraid this might not work as straightforward as it has in the past, but we'll keep plugging away at it. You know, if this goes into tomorrow, it goes into tomorrow. What the heck? It'll be edited down to something, a convenient length for you to watch anyway. So I'll just keep plugging away at it. I'll keep trying to ash the stuff in the kiln. I'll keep trying to dissolve this with bleach and muriatic acid. Okay, the kiln has been hanging out at 850 for a while. Let me give you a quick look at what's inside. It's hot in there, so it's going to be quick. It doesn't really look any different than it did at 550. Oh, that's hot. Wow. Okay, I got to close that up. Ooh, wow. So, I don't know. This ashing in the kiln sounds like a great idea, and thanks to whoever thought of it. How hot do I dare get it? I'll tell you what. I'm going up to 1,000 degrees. If that doesn't do it, then I think we'll just kill this idea. So I will bump the controller up to 1,000 degrees, and we'll see what happens then. It's definitely doesn't seem to be ashing the way I would expect it to. But I would say that's the highest practical temperature for this, at least in the cordingware dish I have it in. Maybe in a different container we could go hotter. So okay, so I will bump that up to 1,000 degrees and let it go for a while. and we'll see what we get. Now, as for this stuff, well, it's getting on late in the afternoon now, and we still have, foils floating around in there when I agitate this. So, but I hadn't thought about this. Yeah, it's taken forever. I think there are fewer foils, though. I really think there are fewer foils. I think they're going into solution slowly. Probably, like I said, the MLCCs, chip resistors, and whatever else is in there is eating up a lot of the chlorine, and it's not available to attack the gold. But I hadn't thought about this. Okay, it's taken forever, but I've used maybe $2 worth of chemicals. Okay, so we can either try to speed this up with a lot of expensive chemicals and a lot more steps in the process, or we can just let this go at its slow, glacially slow rate and maybe get done inexpensively with chemicals that are available pretty much anywhere in the world. So maybe I should just let it go. Every time I wander by, throw some more bleach in it, give it a stir now and then, and I'm sure eventually all those foils will go into solution. Even if it's into tomorrow, it should eventually be done. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to let it go. And I think we'll get there in the end. It's just going to take a while. But it's going to be cheap, and it's going to be easy. So that's a solution I was looking for. Well, here it is, almost 4:30 in the afternoon. The sun's getting low. It's going to get dark in a while. It's getting on towards winter. It gets dark early. But I really don't see any more foils in there when I stir this stuff around. I'm going to give it a couple more shots of bleach just to be on the safe side, and I'm just going to leave it till tomorrow. I'll deal with it, because like I say, it's getting late, and dinner's going to be happening soon. So I'll just leave this till tomorrow. Let's go around back to the kiln and deal with that, because that's been in there pretty much all day too. It's been cooking at 1,000 degrees for a while now. Let's see what we've got. I don't know. We might have a melted dish. You never know. We'll take a look. Yeah, so it's been at 1,000 degrees for a while. Well, 997, 996, so pretty darn close. Let's take a quick peek inside. It'll be hot in there. I got my welding gloves out. My leather gloves weren't cutting the mustard anymore. Got the welding gloves out. It's getting hot in there. So let's take a quick peek and see what it looks like. Yeah, pretty much like it did before. So, but at 1,000 degrees, that should be ashed. I don't know why it's, I don't know. It just looks like it did at 550. Maybe it ashed at 550. I don't know. It still seemed when I was stirring it, it's too hot to stir it, stick my arm in there and try to stir it anymore. But when I was stirring it, when it was cooler, it still seemed like it was kind of sticky and not really ashed. So I don't know. But what I'm going to do, it's getting late, and this is wicked hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shut the kiln down, and we'll come back out here tomorrow morning when everything's had a chance to cool off, and we'll see what we got. And maybe it's ashed, maybe it's not. I don't know. Nothing's been easy with this stuff, so I guess we'll find out. But it's too hot to mess with right now. Okay, it's the next day, and here's our two experiments. So this one kind of worked. It took a lot longer than I thought and a lot more bleach than I expected, but we have all the gold foils in solution in a whole lot of nasty green sludge over there. So I suppose my next step with this is to see if I can filter it, get the liquid containing the gold separated from the sludge, and see if I can get the gold back out of the liquid. So I will get set up for filtration on that. As for this stuff, I really don't know what I've done here. I mean, 1,000 degrees In an oxidizing atmosphere, there should not be anything organic left in here. There's some black stuff, which I imagine is soot or carbon. I can still see the foils. They've shriveled up a little bit, but they're still there. But there's a whole lot of other stuff in here. What is all this stuff? And how's it going to behave? And oh, it's a little bit, the breeze got up a little bit, and this stuff is still so fine it wants to fly away in the breeze. So I don't know what's going to happen with this stuff. You know, everybody says incinerate, incinerate, incinerate. Okay. Well, now I've got this. Now what do I do with it? And how's it going to behave? I suppose I need to give it a nitric acid boil. That would probably be the logical next step, because we still got all the MLCCs and chip resistors in there somewhere, and there's a lot of silver in there. Maybe after the incineration, the chlorine will be gone. That tends to bake out of the silkscreen material, so maybe we'll get a nice nitric acid boil. So I guess I will give this a nitric acid boil, and I will filter this, and we'll see if we can drop gold out of this. It'll probably be an ugly dirty gold drop. I mean, every gold drop with this stuff's been ugly dirty. And you know, as much fizzing and bubbling as going on when I first put muriatic acid to this, was probably tin in there that was going into solution, probably other base metals in there going into solution. It'll probably be colloidal gold. But, you know, I'm used to that. Every gold drop with this stuff's been ugly, dirty, colloidal. So, but at least we'll hopefully be getting there with fewer steps. So, okay. And then I'll get this into a beaker and we'll do a nitric acid boil on it and see what that looks like. Okay, I got the incinerated remains in the fume hood in a beaker. We're going to put some distilled water on it. I almost swear the volume of that stuff grew during incineration. We'll put a little bit of nitric acid on it. Put some heat to it. And warm it up some. And we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, let me get set up to filter this green goo over here. Okay, let's get to filtering. Per usual, this might take a while because there's a lot of goo, especially down at the bottom of this beaker. So I expect the filter will get plugged up in short order. Try and get the liquid through first. Oh, it's coming through quite cloudy, so that means it might need to be filtered a couple of times. Yeah, I was afraid of that. There's probably a whole lot of silver chloride in this stuff from all those MLCCs and chip resistors and all the chlorine that we created in here chewing into them. Yeah, it's all cloudy, so that, and it's coming through cloudy, so this will have to be filtered at least twice. So once I get the liquid through, I'll run it through the dirty filter again, and it'll take forever because the filter will be plugged in, but it should come through nice and clean. So at least that's what I'm hoping. And then I'm wondering about my Corningware dish here. I wonder if I took the temper out of it, running it at 1,000 degrees in the kiln. Wonder if it'll shatter the next time I use it on a burner. I suppose it's a possibility. We'll see. Well, we're starting to get a reaction in there. This has hardly even had a chance to warm up, and we're getting some bubbling. Not seeing any brown-orange fumes yet, but there's definitely something going on in there. So, yeah, if possible, I would like to extract the silver out of that stuff so we don't have the kind of problem we're having with this stuff over here, where I'm going to have an all-day filtration because of all the silver chloride in it. Plus, it'd be nice to, you know, get the silver as kind of a byproduct, you know? It's always a nice little bonus when you can get it. And keep it separate from all of the goo that you have to deal with. Once it gets mixed in with the goo, it's hard to separate it out again. Well, it's been a little while later. This is heated up a bit more. We got some bubbling, a little bit of foaming, and a little bit of brown-orange fumage in there. So something's going on. Some kind of metal's going into solution. So let it continue to cook. Okay, this stuff's been cooking for a while. Oh, we're still filtering over here, by the way. Yeah, this is gonna take a while. The brown fumes stopped. Not a lot going on in there. I think it's more boiling than anything. I just put a few more milliliters of nitric acid in there just to see what would happen, and basically not a lot. So I'm thinking, maybe the reaction's done. I don't know. Certainly there's not much going on in that beaker. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the heat off on it and let it cool down, and once my filtration setup is free, we'll filter this, and maybe it'll be ready to go into Aqua Regia, or do I want to do more muriatic acid and bleach? Good question. I'll give that some thought while this is cooling down before I filter. Well, here's an interesting development. As this stuff's cooling down, it's clearing and turning blue-green. Okay? So is this the blue-green of metal in solution? Or is this the blue-green of dye that is still in there even after the treatment I've given it? And also, interestingly, this stuff started out black. I don't know if it's showing up down there, but it's kind of a reddish brown now, the stuff that's settled out of solution. So I don't know if the nitric acid bleached this stuff, bleached some of the black color out of it, or if we added something light colored to it, something like maybe silver chloride, which we have made in the past just by adding nitric acid to this stuff, because the nitric acid liberates the silver reacts with chlorine that's coming out of something in here, and then winds up going to the bottom of the beaker. So, good. I don't know. Hard to say. An interesting result. Anyway, it's cooling off, so I'll filter it, and we'll see. The gold should be in that reddish brown mud on the bottom somewhere. Then over here, you'll have to take my word for it, but this stuff has been through twice, and it's a lot clearer, even though it is pretty much opaque. At least it seems to be particulate free. I'm at the point of just rinsing the color out of the filter now, so that's going to take a little while, and then we'll be ready to decant that into a beaker and drop the gold out of it. At least try to drop the gold out of it. See what happens when I put some SMB to it. Okay, I've got our filtered stuff. This is the gold that was dissolved with muriatic acid and bleach. So the gold should be in this liquid somewhere, this dark green liquid. I'm going to dilute it some. That should bring the pH down some. That should help maybe the gold come out of solution. We don't have to worry about denoxing it because we didn't use any nitric acid on this. So there's no nitric acid in there to worry about, but there could still be some free chlorine. I guess in theory I should heat it up and boil off any free chlorine, but I think we're just going to go for it, put some SMB in and see what we get. Get the fume hood going. My SMB handy here. And I expect this to be an ugly gold drop. All this green stuff's in here. I'm pretty sure this is dye from the conformal coating, silk screen material, whatever. And I have seen this, and I've done a lot of small-scale tests on this stuff now, and I have seen this stuff interact with the SMB and create a white precipitate. There's probably also some tin in there, so we're probably going to have colloidal gold, I imagine. But we're going to put some SMB in, and we're going to see what we get. little bit more, and then we'll give it a stir. We'll let it sit and see what we get. And again, I'm not expecting a color change just because there is so much crud in there. Although it has gone kind of opaque. I do tend to get a white precipitate when I'm trying to drop the gold out of this stuff. I'm thinking it's interactions with the dye, between the SMB and the dye. So yeah, I see some white stuff floating there, so we're getting a white precipitate, but hopefully we'll get some gold too. The white precipitate tends to be fairly easy to deal with. You know, I can redissolve the gold once it settles out in a little splash of aqua regia, filter it, and leave the white precipitate behind, whatever the heck it is. I don't know. So hopefully we're on the way to getting some gold with a few fewer steps than what we've been doing so far. Okay, so while we're waiting on the gold to drop out and the stuff in the fume hood, this is the stuff I baked in the kiln, and it's had a nitric acid boil now. So I need to filter it because I'm sure the gold foils are down here in this debris layer on the bottom. So we'll get this blue fluid off the top. I'm also going to test this blue fluid and see if it has any significant silver dissolved in it, since it's had a chance to settle and it's reasonably clear. Although I think this blue color, even though this stuff's been baked in the kiln at 1,000 degrees, I suspect this blue color is more dye than dissolved metal. That is, I don't know what kind of dye they use in that silkscreen material. Maybe it's an inorganic dye? I don't know. Slight trace of silver, I would say, in there. So I'm thinking, so yeah, so most of our silver probably wound up as silver chloride on the bottom again. So I hadn't thought about that until recently. The dye they use may be inorganic. Maybe it's not an organic dye. And maybe it doesn't break down that easily with temperature. So yeah, could be something inorganic. The other project I'm working on for Ken, with the stuff from Mount Baker Mining and Metals, the assay report on it has a lot of bismuth and calcium in it, and couldn't quite account for that. It's, you know, it's the metals from ground up motherboards, but several people have chimed in over there in the comments on that section that the bismuth and the calcium probably came from the circuit boards and maybe from the silkscreen material on them. So the only way I'm thinking that would be there is if it was part of an inorganic dye or something. So yeah, we might have inorganics here, which is why I can't cook them off. Which is why it didn't change that much. You know, I heated it up and it didn't change. I heated it up more, it didn't change. Heated it up to the point where anything organic should have been gone, and it still looked pretty much the same. So we could be dealing with inorganics. I wouldn't be surprised. There is some silver there, but not a huge amount. I'll bet most of the silver wound up as a precipitate. So let me get this stuff filtered. And then, once this is filtered, oh yeah, there's all our gold. I don't know if that's showing up. See the gold? See the gold at the bottom of the beaker? I don't know if that's showing up. Yeah, there's our gold. Okay. So I can get this in the fume hood and start dissolving the gold out of this sludge. And see how difficult it is. Hopefully it'll be easy. We'll see. Alrighty, just about got this stuff filtered and cleaned up. I will put this liquid with the liquid I have been storing that contains some silver in it. It may have some active nitric in it too, so I'll put it with that. Let me give you a look at what's in the filter. Focus. Well, there's all our gold foils shining really nicely in there. There's some brown baby poop like stuff and lots of debris. But I have to say, there's actually less nasty debris in here than usual. So maybe the 1,000-degree bake in the kiln did do some good. Yeah, because usually after a nitric acid boil without the bake, this thing is just filled with gray-green goo, and you know, I'm not seeing that now. We got some brown goo, but you know, that might be rust from the steel in the MLCCs and chip resistors. But yeah, the gold is really prominent. It's not buried under the goo. So I would say maybe the bake in the kiln did do some good. I'm not sure it was worth it, but yeah, maybe it did do some good. Well, time will tell. Okay, so I need to get this stuff in a beaker and dissolve the gold. And I need to think about how I want to do that. Do I want to go to Aqua Regia, or do I want to go back to muriatic acid and bleach? Alright, it is the next morning. I let this sit overnight and settle. We've got a scum of gold floating on the surface, which I'm going to knock down with a water spray, so it can sink to the bottom with the rest of the gold. There is a layer of gold down there. It's very hard to see because the liquid is so dark, but there is a layer of gold on the bottom, but it's also mixed with a layer of some other precipitate that we get whenever I put SMB into this stuff. I think it's something interacting with the dye that's in there, that's still in there. So, but that precipitate has not been too big a problem. So what I'll do is I'll let this settle some more, get all the gold on the bottom, siphon off the bulk of the liquid. I'll put a little Aqua Regia in here, redissolve the gold, filter it, and we should get some good clean gold that way. Alright, so I'll work on that. As for this stuff, I have decided, after thinking about it overnight, that I'm going to go with the muriatic acid and bleach method to see if I can dissolve all that gold in there. I mean, it worked before. We've got less of the nastiness in there than we had before after the nitric acid boil, although, you know, it still looks pretty nasty. We've definitely gotten rid of some stuff. So I will get set up for that and start dissolving it. It's probably going to take a while, but you've already seen this process once, so I don't have to show it to you in detail. Okay, so here we go. Huh. That's interesting. Not getting as vigorous a reaction as before. Of course, it's early morning and it's stone cold out here again. Ah, now I see some bubbling. Okay. As long as we're making some chlorine gas in there. Oh yeah, okay. I guess the first pipette or two really didn't do much, but yeah, we're starting to get some bubbling. Okay, good. So I will just keep this up until it looks like all those foils in there are in solution. Then I'll just filter this stuff and drop the gold. I know this video is getting long, so I won't show you a whole lot of this process of dissolving this gold, because like I said, you've seen it before once already. Okay, busy morning here in the fume hood. We're dissolving the gold over here in muriatic acid and bleach. I don't know if you can see the green color of the gas in that beaker. We got lots of chlorine in there, so that's working. Got rid of the bulk of the liquid off of that dirty gold drop over here. And got a little splash of Aqua Regia going in there. This is just starting to warm up, so we will redissolve that gold in there in Aqua Regia and filter it and get whatever that whitish precipitate is out of it, and then we'll add it to our collection bottle. So yeah, busy morning in the fume hood. Okay, so this gold has gone back into solution. I will set up to filter that and get rid of whatever that whitish precipitate is in there, and we'll get some nice clean gold we can add to our depository. And this stuff's still going into solution, although it's going faster than it did the other day. Maybe that the baking in the kiln and the nitric acid boils got rid of some stuff that was in the way of the bleach and muriatic acid dissolving the gold, because it's actually going into solution quite quickly. I mean, it's less than an hour, and really, I don't see very many foils floating in there anymore. So, yeah, even though it's all stone cold, it's actually working. So, cool. All right, so I got my two solutions out. This just needs to have the white precipitate filtered out of it, and I think I'm just going to gravity filter it. That should go fairly quickly. There's not much liquid here. I'll try to pour off the liquid first and get it through without too much of the white precipitate. And we'll dump the precipitate in and wash the color out of it. Yeah, not sure what that precipitate is. I think there is some silver chloride in there, which I'm not surprised about. But the bulk of that white stuff is not silver chloride. Not sure what it is. It didn't form until after I put the SMB in. So that's not when you get silver chloride. Okay, so while that's filtering, I am going to vacuum filter this other stuff. Get my pump plugged in, and we'll get this stuff started. This nasty green goo filtered. It's actually kind of yellow green. Yellow's the right color. That's good. It looks like it's coming through cloudy, so it might need to be filtered a couple of times through here, which is going to take quite a while. Air leak here. Punch the filter down along the edges. We need to be pulling air through, we need to be pulling liquid through. There we go. Got that air leak. Alright. So yeah, this needs to be a little clearer than that, so this will probably have to go through again. So unfortunately. And so I'll probably be spending the afternoon filtering liquids. So we'll see what we get. Okay, these have both been through their respective filters twice. I'm not really thrilled with the clarity or the color of either one. They're both quite green. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to combine them in one beaker and drop the gold and then try to clean up the gold. We'll see how much gold we get. Yeah, I'm trying to only put clean gold in our little gold depository here. So, yeah, that's the wrong color, and that's the wrong color to be getting a good clean gold drop out of. So what I think I'll do is I will combine them, drop the gold, see if I can clean it up, redissolve it in a little splash of Aqua Regia, get something cleaner that I can put in here. Alright, so time to drop this gold. I've combined the liquid from both filtrations into one beaker, and I think I'm going to dilute it a little bit. I think it's still kind of concentrated, so we'll dilute it some. Yeah, there's definitely some sort of precipitate making it through both filtrations. I'm going to have to clean this stuff up, but once I get this gold dropped, we'll see if I can clean it up. So this video is getting quite long. So you've seen me drop gold and clean it up before in this series many times, so I'm not going to make you watch this. So what's going to happen here is after this gold drops, I will see if I can get it good and clean and redissolve it in a little splash of Aqua Regia and put it in our gold depository, okay? So, another ugly, dirty gold drop. Yeah, we're getting more white precipitate. But I think we have a couple of different ways forward here. I really don't think that the treatment in the kiln did as much good. I'm pretty sure that this green dye, whatever it is inorganic, because it wasn't burning off in the kiln. So it's just following us through wherever we go. But the bleach and muriatic acid dissolved all the gold without any foaming, without any drama. It took a little while, and it only used a couple bucks of chemicals at the very most. So I'm liking that, okay? So here's what I think I'm going to do. I was hoping to wrap this all up by the end of this video, but obviously, no. I still have half or 3/4 of the material left. But I think I have a way forward. I think in the next video in this series, we're finally going to tackle a large-scale run of the material. And not only are we going to dissolve it with bleach and muriatic acid, I think before we do that, I'm going to take a magnet to it and see if I can pull out as many of the MLCCs and chip resistors as possible, because they're screwing us up too. And then it's just a matter of dissolving the gold with the bleach and hydrochloric acid, dropping the gold back out, and then probably redissolving it and cleaning it up once or twice. And it's going to be a fairly simple process. It's going to be an easy process. It can be done with chemicals that can be found anywhere in the world. Ken wouldn't have any trouble getting bleach and hydrochloric acid, I'm sure. Need a splash of nitric acid to make aqua regia there at the end, but you know, you can always do poor man's nitric. So, yeah, I'm liking this process. I think we have something that's going to work moving forward. So in part 4, we're finally going to tackle the bulk of this stuff and see if we can get through it. And hopefully by the end of part 4, we'll have all the gold. We'll know exactly how much gold we got out of all those foils, and we'll see if anybody left a comment with a guess that was close. I think a lot of you are guessing way too high. But, you know, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's more gold here than I think. So, subscribe to see part 4 and all of my other interesting gold recovery videos. Press the little bell icon YouTube wants you to press, be notified when new videos come out. You'll be notified when I release a new video if you're a subscriber and you press that button. Check out my second channel, ElectroGeek64. There's always good stuff going on over there, including some new content I am filming today while this is going on. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching this long one. Bye.